Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Tibco guys for having me out here today to talk to you guys. It's been an amazing journey, like you said, 10 years, and it's been a key driver for the success that we've had in some of the areas of the business. So my name is David Ferber. I do cool things at Equifax. I've been there for 26 years. It's been a lot of fun. And so today I'm going to talk about innovation as the theme of we have today. I'm going to talk about innovation that drives transformation, and I'm going to cover my career and the journey of transformation that I've been involved in over the last 26 years at Equifax. In the innovation and transformation around technology, transformation around data, analytics, and people, as you can see behind me, the transformation of me as a young college computer scientist with lightning bolts coming out of my head to the guy you see here in front of you today. It's been a wild ride. So let's start with the 1990s. I'm a young, eager computer scientist, graduating from college, and I get hired by this company that has been known in the Atlanta area, where I'm from, as one of the leaders in the technology space. And you can imagine my excitement. I'm a computer scientist coming to work for one of the leading technology companies. And as the new guy, I was assigned a task that nobody really likes to perform, but it's a necessary evil. And this is prior to the days of SFTP and data transfers. They would mail us all the data on digital media, big reel-to-reel tapes, magnetic carts, and it would come into this secure mailroom. And somebody would have to unpack these tapes and log them in and take them down to the mainframe. And the process was surprising to me, needless to say, that we had a filing cabinet of note cards, and on the left side, the note card said free. And on the right side, the note card cabinet said taken. And so the guy was showing me, here's what you do. You open up the cabinet and pull out a card that says free, and there's a number written on it. You write the information on the note card about the tape. You take the number from the tape, or the card, and put it on the tape. And then you put the card into the taken slot, hopefully in the right numerical order so it doesn't get lost. And then you run the tape down to the mainframe and put it in the slot, and then you can go start running your data jobs against that data. And so, show of hands here, who knows what the Dewey Decimal System is? I was shocked that a company as advanced as Equifax was using the Dewey Decimal System to track their data tapes. So I had taken upon myself to build a database, a UI, and start automating and bringing that process into the most current modern state at the time in the 1990s. At that point in time, I realized there's a lot of opportunity for innovation here at Equifax, and I made a career out of it over the past 26 years. So let's fast forward a few years and get into the 2000s. We were a big mainframe shop, massive amount of batch processing that we did to process hundreds of millions of records of credit data. And we went through a transformation at that point. I was pulled into a project to move us off the mainframe and onto supercomputers. And at the time, there was no commercially available supercomputer technology, so we had to build it ourselves, so we partnered with a company. And the goal there was reduce cost, make things faster and cheaper. And it was an exciting project, very painful, very hard, if you can imagine. Literally hundreds of millions of lines of code had to be rewritten and transferred into this new system. But the focus was on faster and cheaper, and it really wasn't thinking about what all the possible implications that could be done with this new technology. So the transformation was successful. We moved all this work from mainframe to supercomputer, and I was very happy. And I thought, wow, we had this massive amount of power. And when it took me 2 weeks, $50,000 just to run credit scores on the entire U.S. population, which is about 280 million credit files at the time. $50,000 just to run that one job. And so it really inhibited our ability to do any meaningful analytics on the entire data set. Our analysts would have to bring in a 1% sample, or even in some cases, 1% of a 5% sample, a very small amount of data. And an analyst had come to me that one day and said, David, we do these portfolio analysis for our customers, and we do it on a small sample, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we can only do about 12 a year. because of the amount of manual and cost involved in developing these things. And he asked if I could redo this on our new supercomputer, and I told him I would. And I looked at it, and we built out a new process to do an entire national view on 100% of the data on a portfolio for our clients. It only took me 2 hours. It took almost 30 days, now down to 2 hours on this new technology. It was a game changer, and at that point I realized analytics at Equifax is going to be different. We're able to do way more and provide way more value to our customers than we were able to do in the past. That year, I ended up doing over 300 of those portfolio analysis. We went from 12 to 300 in 1 year. And it benefited our customers because it gave them deeper insights into the data that we had in our systems. So let's fast forward to today. Well, I'll necessarily say the last 5 years, the journey that I've been on is really cultivating that supercomputer technology, or I say distributing computing technology, to change our business. And I was tapped into by our Chief Data and Analytics Officer to come over to the analytics side. I was an IT guy. And he asked me to build him the state-of-the-art analytics platform for Equifax. And we did just that. I was able to take all the data assets, and you can see some of them that are here that we own at Equifax, disparate systems across 12 different data exchanges, 47 data feeds, 5 petabytes of data, trillion rows of data into one single place, keyed, linked, and ready to go for our analysts to go access and start building new products and capabilities for our customers. It was wildly successful, and it changed our strategy on how we operated and how we did analytics and how we thought about the services and products that we provide our customers. And we really focused on 3 major problems that we were trying to solve at the time. How do we bring all our data assets together? It took analysts months to go to these different exchanges and pull the data together, and then bring it into a place that had compute capacity, massive compute capacity. So we built in a Hadoop environment, massive distributed computing capabilities, so they could do more. We brought in advanced analytical tools to do more with the data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, some of the things you hear about here today and yesterday. And then once you did build something insightful, some great analytical insight that you wanted to take action on, traditionally it would take 6 months to a year to rewrite that insight into a production system that we could actually leverage and take advantage of. So what we did is focused on those 3 problems, and I was able to define integrations with all these production systems to deploy those insights. Again, another game changer, another transformation to do things faster and better. But to be relevant, these innovations and these transformations really need to have an impact. It has to change and to help a community to drive something more valuable than just faster and cheaper. So that drove us to the latest transformation that I'm here to talk about today. Our new focus is helping people live their financial best. And when I say that, I don't mean stock tips or retirement planning. I'm talking about tangible access to credit and things that allow you to grow and build your life the way you want to. Getting more consumers access to credit is now a focus and a vision that everybody at Equifax is driving towards. And so I want to cover some numbers here and I'll talk about the impact of all the data and analytics and those things that I talked about, the transformations that have happened over the last 20 years to drive this. 9 million consumers were able to secure a student loan and go to college with the data that we have. 32 million people in the last year were able to buy a car and get approved for that loan because of the data that we have. 11 million people bought a new home. That's life-changing for them, right? Because of the data that we have. And that's not just the U.S. We're a global company. We have data across the globe on a lot of different geographies. 8 million people in Latin America are now able to get credit that they didn't have before. We're helping people in Chile avoid identity fraud, identity theft, and avoiding fraud losses in Australia. All these data assets that we have are coming together to help people drive this. And this, to me, is the most exciting piece of this. Look at the impact that we're having on the world with the solutions and the data and the technology that we've built. It's incredible. And it's very humbling for me to be part of that and see the impact it has on these people's lives. So when you look at this in its entirety, the data assets that we have cover about 1 billion people worldwide, 1 billion people. And I'd like to focus on one person specifically right now. This is my boss, Prasanna Dore. He's our Chief Data and Analytics Officer. And he tells us a great story about coming to the United States. He was an immigrant coming to the U.S. to go to school. And he went to school for 2 years in Manhattan, Kansas. And when he graduated, he had a degree and got a job in New York City. And the story he talks about is his journey to get to New York City was very difficult. The trials and tribulations of somebody who doesn't have any credit. He was a credit invisible. That meaning the data that the banks used to lend money, they had zero information on him. They had no clue about what he was doing, what his risk profiles were, any of that. So he tells this story about a friend lends him a car to drive from Kansas to Ohio, or to New York. And somewhere in Ohio, he stops for lunch, and he notices the engine's smoking. And next thing you know, flames are coming out. And he panics and runs into the diner next door and asks for a glass of water. And they're like, honey, water's not going to help you. And the car burns to the ground, and he's stranded in Ohio with no money, no credit, nothing. Fortunately, he had a network of friends and family that he could lean on to get him through this tough time. And that friend loaned him $50 so he could get a bus ticket to New York where he could start his job and build his life. So I'm going to play a snippet of his speech talking about the credit invisibles. So let's see that video, please.
Is luck or fate the only option for credit invisible? If the financial institutions knew that I had 2 years of stable income, 2 years of rental payments, 2 years of utility payments, 2 years of phone payments, they did not. They relied on one dimension of data, the credit data. I didn't have a credit file. I didn't have a credit score. Whether you're an immigrant or not, no one is born with a credit score. Have you ever seen a father looking at an ultrasound and say, oh my God, it's a beautiful girl, and she has a credit score of 800? No. No. There are 25 million people in this country who are credit invisible. 50% of the population in LATAM is credit invisible. 10% adult population in the UK, in Canada, Spain are credit invisible. We should help, we can help, and we must help this group.
Thank you. Thank you. 25 million people in the United States credit invisible, meaning there is no credit report, no credit data that they have for lenders to make decisions on. We can't, like Prasanna said, we can help, we must help, and we will help. And that's the new journey that we're on here at Equifax. So how do we do that? Well, we call it Smarter Decisions Together, and we're working with the lenders today to change how they look at granting credit. We're talking about differentiated alternative data assets that Prasanna touched on, bringing all those together in one place. We're talking about income. How long have you worked at your job? Your rental payments for your apartment, your cell phone bill, your cable bill. Those are pieces of data that we have now that show a different layer to the banks that can allow them to lend deeper and more confident into the subprime market. But it's also about the analytics, right? We're bringing together machine learning techniques that we have now got approved in a regulatory compliance way to use more advanced analytics on that data to make better, smarter decisions. It's about technology, scalable technology in the cloud to be able to do more with more data faster and cheaper, like I talked about earlier. It's about bringing in together and building a platform which is our next journey and the things that I've been working over the past year, that allows our customers to maximize the value of their data to make smarter decisions, better decisions to help those 25 million people. So I've talked about the data, I've talked about the analytics, I've talked about the technology, but most importantly, it's driven by people, passionate people that are working in a company with a culture to drive the mission that we talked about, to drive and help people live their financial best. So let's talk about, hold on a second. Let me back up one more time. So when I talk about people, I talk about the people at Equifax. I have statisticians, mathematicians, data scientists. I have software developers, programmers, data wranglers. I love the data wranglers, by the way. They're my favorite. And so all these guys are working together to drive this mission. And I affectionately call them my geeks and my nerds. All right, I'd like to see a show of hands. Who knows what a geek is versus a nerd? Do you know the definitions? Do you know? All right, well, I'll tell you. A geek is a technology guy. I'm a geek. I speak a little nerd, but my background is technology. So the nerds are the mathematicians, the science guys. So any organization that wants to maximize the value of their data, it's really imperative to bring the geeks and the nerds together and have them work closely together, because that changes how they operate. It changes the culture. It changes how they think. They both need to understand the problems they're trying to solve because they need to work together closer today. Traditional organizations, you had an ID department, you had an analytics department, a big wall in the middle, and they would throw the requirements over the wall and the technology guy would go build it. Had no clue why they were doing it. We changed that culture and brought these teams together at Equifax, and it has been a major factor in the success of these platforms that we're building. So how many geeks do we have out here? Can I see a raise of hands? We got geeks? How many nerds? Oh, I think the geeks outweigh the nerds. All right. Go geeks. All right, so let's talk about the nerds for a minute. My nerds are awesome. I love these guys. I have lunch with them sometimes, and we talk about the math that they're working on. But there's a specific piece of math I want to cover around the way we score credit data. Traditionally, and in the US, a credit score has to be explainable back to the consumer. What data elements drove that score that you got? And it's important, and it's by law, you have to. So as a consumer, you know, well, these factors contributed to my score. How can I make those better? What do I do to improve my score? So we call them reason codes. But that requirement, that legal requirement, drives us to use certain math that's explainable, linear logistic regression type models, because now we can tell what data elements drove that score. It limited us in our ability to use machine learning techniques because they were unexplainable. And these guys wanted to change that. They developed a new solution, a new set of math to solve that problem. And we're able to use neural nets and gradient boosting machines now, these types of analytics, and explain why it was. So we're driving this new feature called explainable AI. And I don't know if you've heard of that. I've seen a lot of talk about AI, but nothing around explainable AI here this week. And it's Neuro Decisioning technology. And this is what these guys developed. And why is it important? It's important because it gives our lenders another tool when you add in new data and this machine learning capability with explainable reason codes that can go back to a consumer and tell you what data did contribute to that model. And it gives those lenders more confidence to lend deeper into the subprime market. But we need to prove that. And how do we prove it to a lender? I like data visualization. It's a very big passion of mine. As we talked earlier, we've been using Spotfire to do data visualization for 10 years now. I created a global practice of data visualization at Equifax, and it's exploded. The usage across the world and all our organizations across the globe have latched on and embraced data visualization. And it's important because it allows our customers to see the true value in an easy-to-consume way of what our data is telling them to do. When I talk about these advanced analytics and the lift that you're going to get, I throw it into this data visualization tool to talk through and show really where the impact is, the return on investment, and our customers get it, and they want it, and they want to get their hands on it. And it's been a key factor in driving our sales and our organization and how we operate across the globe with data visualization. And so I would like to talk about, we picked Spotfire for several reasons, but the geographical analysis capabilities and the ability to segment and partition the users and control the data were far superior than anything else in the market. The ability to embed JavaScript D3 and give you really cool interactive visualizations like that were amazing and a key driver to that. So what's next for Equifax and my career? We're going to continue to gather and collect more data assets to get to the next billion people. I talked about the first billion. Our goal is to get to the next billion people. We're going to continue to scale and grow our technology infrastructure. We're going to cloud. I think everybody's going to cloud, but it is a big push we're doing as we speak today and migrating everything so we can scale to the level that we need to be to support the next billion people. And we'll continue to develop new and more advanced analytical techniques that are regulatory compliant, that help the customer live their financial best. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and have a great day, guys.